Hello, everyone. Welcome to Our World Today, the Unionist Perspective. Today, I'm with Isaiah and Yorin, and we're going to talk about the news this week. Starting with something a little bit positive, even though the CEO may be controversial. SpaceX has successfully built a mechanical arm that can catch a rocket ship back to Earth, which means that it's a huge financial success and technological success for, I guess, a conquering of a moon and Mars. I don't know how to say it and else. And then we're going to talk about less things that are a little less good with Diddy comes and his trial and on the sex trafficking and other allegation he has against him. And then, if we have time, we'll talk about um, the cyber attack that Iran has declared on Israel and what it entails, and finish up with the tensions that are brewing in Mexico when where a mayor has been assassinated. So let's start right away with after story about SpaceX. So at the beginning of the week, SpaceX successfully launched a rocket ship, a Starship rocket on Sunday, I think, and then got it back with two mechanical arms back to Earth. And SpaceX, if you don't know, is a company of Elon Musk, who has been founding it, and they've been kind of in a competition per se with Boeing in order to propose to NASA something that is viable and economically realistic to send rocket ships back to the moon and then to Mars. And so it seems that because of it, and because they have about um, half or maybe a third of the amount that Boeing is spending on budget, NASA is going to go with them. And yeah, so I am here with Isaiah and Naja. So I would like to just know your thoughts about all that's happening here, and yeah, how do you feel about um this news, basically? How do you feel about Elon Musk and SpaceX and everything that's been going on? Isaiah, would you like to be
Yeah, I can
honest?
share. I just think it's a big success. I think that's um it's a much better option than and especially financially, you know. Um, yeah, I guess I don't know, it's just good. That's really all I have to say how I have to say about it. Is there any more that you can tell us about it or
I don't know if
about
you, I don't know if there is any more to say.
yeah.
It's just that um, when you're not like a professional or like a aeronautics expert, that's the only thing that we can talk about. And basically,
Hmm.
um, the mechanical arms, they're like things that they worked on for years, and they're dubbed like they called the chopsticks, which is kind of funny because it's kind of bad. They're kind of closed down on the rocket. This is a pretty funny way of of catching a rocket. That's sort of a first. And then there's also, how can I say this? There's also the fact that SpaceX didn't have um always successes. For example, there was a rocket that exploded a few months back, but everyone was optimistic that it could help learn from a mistake so that they could have successes afterwards. And I would say that no matter what you think of Elon Musk and the fact that he's going a little bit haywire, it's going a little bit crazy right now. I'm not gonna lie. We are not aligned on the way to communicate and the political views, or the way to go about them, at least. And but it's a testament to not giving up, I would say. The story of not giving up, and seeing that upsets are not stops, they're successes. And that's basically what we believe in. And that's the reason why Elon Musk has the success that he has, no matter how crazy he is. It's the fact that he works, and if it doesn't work, then he tries something else. And he always keeps like innovation at the forefront, I would say. And I think whether you like the character or not, we can definitely learn from that, and that's super interesting and inspiring. I don't know if you guys agree, but yeah, I would love to hear what you have to say. Nadia, you seem like you're thinking about it.
I am because I know that Elon has been working on this for over a decade now.
Mm.
But if you consider the progress that NASA has made compared to Elon, he has progressed fairly fast to get to this point. And it makes me think that all of his products will have more of that quality and more insight, given that his test and trial and errors is giving him more data and input to better technology. So yeah, I think it's a great feat for us, like like in general, overall for technology.
It is. It is also for the projects that people have. I don't know the details about it, but like NASA is trying to send 12 men back on the moon after the Apollo missions. And so this will surely participate in having safe ways to have travels from the moon and back if, for example, the mechanical arm is also installed on the moon as well. That's kind of a weird concept because, it's literally the definition of like colonizing another another like a moon or a planet. But as a concept, scientifically, we're colonizing, and because that's not home, and it's basically for science. So yeah, it's kind of surreal a little bit, but that's good because if that can ensure some safety to these types of mission, well, that will be a good thing for all of us for sure. Sage, anything to add to this?
Yeah, yeah, I wanted to say too that I agree with you. Like, I feel like even though Elon Musk has made some decisions in his life, perhaps recently, especially that have been perhaps not in alignment with love, I think it's important to look at everything in your life and appreciate the good that is there and a few bad choices that you made, or maybe a few places where you're really stubborn and resistant to love in some place, doesn't invalidate your entire everything good in your life, right? I think we should always examine things in a way that relates to the personal level, because like our journeys are universal. And so you can kind of think about it that way. And you could be like, well, would I like take all of the positive choices and things that I've done and like invalidate them just because of a few areas or something where I'm like being, you know, you know, stubborn or resistant to love or something like that. No, obviously not, right? So I think that it's important because a lot of the time in the media sphere, no, they're not all the time. There's kind of this opinion divide where it's like either you're kind of really for, everything that Elon Musk does, or you're really against. And that's not everybody, but it's like popular in the media to be like that. And I think that that's not, it's not accurate. It's a disservice to everyone because, you know, you've got to look at things in an accurate, nuanced way. So yeah, I just wanted to say that.
That's so good that you're bringing this up. I think you're so right about this because isn't this what we're trying to cure or fight and overcome in media right now? Like the reason why people are so like either on the side of Israel and on the side of Palestine, or actually you could be very nuanced about both parties having to change stuff. Like I'm talking about Hamas more than Palestine, obviously, but yeah, that's a huge lesson. Thank you for bringing this up. That's very insightful, and actually brings us to the other big topic that we're having right now. One of the big topics, which is that the war, I guess, the conflict between Iran and Israel has obviously started, but in a way that's slightly different from maybe Hamas and Hezbollah, maybe because Iran is an official country. And it's a fact that there are cyber attacks that are kind of looting the information system of Israel, which can be kind of dangerous when you're under attack with like ballistic missiles from other territories. And I would love for Sage to kind of, the summary that you gave us when you sent this, to kind of share it with everyone right now so they can understand what is actually happening right now with Iran, Israel, and all the other parties.
Yeah, so just to give like a general overview of what has been going on, there was Israel, the military did the intelligence services did the operation where they had a bunch of those pagers that were somehow implanted with explosives, and the goal was to target Hamas people, operatives. They've, done bombing in various parts of Lebanon to also try to target, you know, Hezbollah's stuff there, military stuff. And they, Iran is like the number one financial backer of Hezbollah and also Hamas. And so Iran sent this attack consisting of 180 ballistic missiles over to Israel. And, Israel did manage to like shoot a lot of them down, but Israel responded by not like a full-on strike yet in Iran, but it's said that they're solidifying their targets for that. But they did respond with a cyber attack on Iran, and that could affect like military infrastructure, also energy, their nuclear program. It could affect civilian infrastructure, although I wasn't totally sure. So there was that occurring, and also the United States announced too over the weekend that they were going to like try to financially cut off and target any ships or companies that are helping sell Iranian oil and oil products, basically, because like there are already international sanctions on Iran regarding oil, but there are definitely some companies and like some ships that will try to find ways to get around that. So that's basically what's going on. And it's basically created this debate about, not created this debate, but kind of continued it about like, in this situation, like what is loving and what isn't, and also what are the right measures to take to stand up to a bully. That's the word that I was using to keep it in simple terms, or like to stand up to, you know, aggressors. Yeah, aggression basically. And so yeah, that's basically the question that's been brought up and stuff. And like, people debating like, is it okay to have these sanctions at all? Is it okay for Israel to launch a cyber attack? Should we not create a precedent, an additional precedent of like cyber warfare? Because like you said, that can get really dangerous. So yeah, I guess that's the overview of it.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so my question to it would be, well, how would you answer these questions? Should we make a move there? Like, what is loving? What is not? Are this decision good? Should we let this happen? Should we try to stop it? Cut the resources of Iran even more? Um, but I guess, yeah, the main question that I would have for you is like, what is the loving thing to do? And what do you think the different parties are thinking the loving thing to do is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So looking at it from the two parties' perspectives, put in quotes, because we know that they're not monoliths or anything. Like people think different things in any country, but like, okay, so I feel like, from Iran's perspective, now take this with a grain or actually a shaker full of salt, but I'm just going to say it because we need to examine different perspectives, even if they're like really skewed. But um, basically, their perspective would be, you know, Hezbollah and also Hamas are like trying to counteract Israel, which they feel shouldn't exist at all and illegally occupies the land that is or was Palestine. And that's their perspective. And they're like, hey, this attacks recently on Hezbollah have been really devastating. And these are good people who are fighting for the rights of, their people. And also, the attacks have created a lot of civilian casualties too, so because they can only be like so precise with that. So I guess, especially since Hezbollah, like Hamas, kind of they like to put their a lot of military stuff apparently underneath civilian areas. So that's kind of a trend here, which is interesting. That's not the word to put. Like I would just say flat out irresponsible. But anyway, so that's Iran's side of the perspective, and they're saying like, you don't have the right to like shut down our oil trade because it interferes with our sovereignty. Russia likes to use those words too. That sanctions are interfering with Russia's sovereignty. Okay, and what's the other thing? I don't remember. Oh, and the cyber attack too can be really dangerous too. Yeah, because it can shut down important infrastructure for the country to run. But and then Israel's perspective on that, more so at least with the government, is more like saying, Hezbollah and Hamas and Iran, they all have their goal. Their stated goal is to get rid of Israel completely, and Israel has the right to kind of cut off any support to Iran, or kind of take down their infrastructure and try to cripple their economy first before things would get any worse, basically. And they would do that, try to advance their stated goal. So, yeah, I feel like those are the two sides. I'm sorry, that was a lot. If anyone wants to jump in there, I didn't answer all of about like what the truth is in that,
Mhm.
but I just wanted to stop there for people to comment.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's good. I think that's good. Do you have any comments, Yavers, on what is happening? Would you like to share? Or not? That's okay if you don't. But Nadia, maybe.
I'm just sitting with this, and one thing that did struck me was that the goal has to be reasonable. You cannot have a goal that's like you have to get out of this country because now where are they gonna go? And it's not the same scale as Israel's goal of being safe and living a flourishing life. So yeah, it just seems very like headstrong and bullying, as Sage mentioned. Like If your goal is to eradicate people, you're doing the same thing that Israel has been doing when they took over Palestine. And it both of them seem to be in the same case right now. And it actually reminds me of Columbus Day, where it kind of happened like, Jewish descents came and kind of erased culture that was already there in the land and pushed people further to the point where when Columbus came, they came from persecution too, and they wanted a better life as well, but not to the point where you completely diminish Native Americans. And they're still struggling to rebuild their life and infrastructure. And I can definitely understand from that perspective of Palestinians having to rebuild what they have lost. So there is two major perspectives that we have to hold while we're compassionately answering these questions. But right off the bat, the goal that Iran has is just not feasible and not reasonable.
That is actually a very good insight. Thank you. Yeah. What struck me is the more we're talking about this conflict, this whole conflict basically, but with like multiple branches, clearer it is how um, ideology can hurt people a lot if it's not healed. And yeah, you have to have realistic responses for what is happening at present. Like Native Americans, like they have right to their land, but you would then get all of our American citizens out of the country just to give back land. You have to, but still the American citizens have to work hand in hand with people on reserves to make sure that everyone is respected. Um, no matter what happened in the past, and that's kind of the same with Israel, and that's probably why Israel has a lot of support, because the attacker will never be right. And then they become the attacker because they shoot on civilians, but also you have to see that Hamas and Hezbollah put these resources behind civilians in order to perpetrate the communication that Israel is only here to attack and kill people, which is not true. That's a communication tactic propaganda that is costing thousands of lives. And so the choices are not just on one side. We really have to be very balanced in the way that we see each of the responsibilities and trying to ideologically pin all of your blame on one person is what is hurting our geopolitical stability and humanity at large, society at large right now. And that's what I would say about it. And I think it's very important to share. And as we understand this, the more we understand this, instead of trying to tear at each other by trying to take a side, the better we'll be. As and the better our geopolitical stability will be, because the reason why this conflict is so important to talk about Ukraine, or it is so important to talk about Israel and Palestine, it is because it is affecting absolutely all of us in one way or another. Yeah, amounts of very complex, of course, but like it's these things that are so universal, like the ideology on which we are fighting upon, have the ability to make or break the fabric of the way we function as human beings, as a society right now, I would say. And that's why it's important. Any last words on this, or to guess we're complete?
Yes, it feels like generational healing because those who have committed the crimes or have, taken the take the decisions that were taken during that time I don't feel any longer. So now they have families and they have children that are born in a land that they claim as their own, and they're still having to respond and react to previous actions and previous patterns of behavior, which now they must stop. And they have to recognize that this is a new era, this is a new lifetime, and they cannot continue the actions and the thoughts that were previously there.
And I would add to that the wife of one hostage is now a refugee in France. And for the anniversary of the terrorist attack, she went on to speak about her husband so that he was not forgotten as a hostage. And you have to see that the situation is complicated for them too, because a lot of people don't like Netanyahu's influence anymore, and they don't even want to associate their hostages and their family to the government to the point that they refuse to give Netanyahu any photos, they refuse to assist to the official commemoration, just so that it would not be instrumentalized by Netanyahu. And I would say that this wife said something that marked me. She said, I don't know if I should say this. And right now we are scared to talk and take sides because people will tear into us if you try to say that you support any of the sides. And she says, I shouldn't say this, but we never wanted this war. We have a family, we just wanted somewhere to establish our family. And obviously, that's not all Israeli people. She's only talking about her family, of course. And then there are all the cultural choices and patterns that she has to heal around it, and the fact that she was at the border between Gaza and Israel, that this land is kind of, it's a little bit, and even like her husband is a kefir. I don't remember. So they participate in the safety of the land as well as civilians for a bit of money. If I'm not mistaken, I may be mistaken. But the thing is, at the core, it doesn't feel like some of the Israeli people, if not most, are choosing to support a war. And we have to be aware of like the new choices of people and not stay on the resentment of the past. Otherwise, like you're not going to go anywhere. The attacker is never right. You may come to realize that ideologically you may be closer to your neighbor than you thought, and through talking, through having messy relationships, you may understand that, oh, there may be a third solution that we never thought of, but that we couldn't see because we were never talking before. And so it's all about relationships, really. I would say like you wouldn't divorce your husband just because he said something that was hurtful. And that's kind of the same thing, but not really. But we have to remember that all nations, societies, um, are kind of complex beings that functions like a complex microcosm of human beings, like a macrocosm. So yeah, just have to take that into account, basically. Anything else?
Yeah, I also just want to make the comment too about the morality and what are the right steps for US and Israel to take toward Iran. And I feel like there's the whole question about like how these economic sanctions on Iran's oil industry and how has, I guess, the cyber attack affected the broader Iranian population. I feel like in terms of the morality of it, you have to remember that like you said, a nation is not just one thing. And everyone knows not everybody in a country agrees with what the leadership is doing. But at the same time, nobody can really say, you can't say that, oh, I'm separate from my country, but everyone also has a choice, and like that their choices impact like their experience, like how they're affected by stuff going on, what action they take, for or against the government's choices and stuff like that. So yeah, but I feel like it's necessary. It's if the Iranian government is threatening Israel's very existence, and they say that, and um, their oil industry is part of what makes it possible for them to do that, and their cyber infrastructure is very important to that as well. Then I think it is necessary to target those things. I do feel though that if you're being like, you don't want to be like excessive, you want to target stuff that would prevent the government from prosecuting its like intended like war conflict or whatever, but you don't that's the goal, and you don't want the intention to veer off from that, basically, is what I'm saying. Yeah, I guess that's what I felt about it. I don't
That's good actually, because it poses a question of are every choices in the conflicts like completely disinterested, except for the fact that we want to keep two nations safe? And the answer is probably not. Like there are a lot of other things that people feel about different parties that may push them to do some decisions, but hopefully like the governments are always trying to strive, at least in the West, for peace and for solutions that feels like the most loving with the tools that they have. So yeah, thank you for your answer. I think it was very good to help us understand what is going on. And I would like to talk about something else. We are talking about kind of violent things, sadly, today, but the next topic is about the beheading of the mayor of a city in Mexico. And before we go into the story, I want to ask Nadia, what pushed you to choose this one today? What's the reason why you felt we should discuss this?
Mm, I feel like everyone has different levels of ego that they had to deal with in their life. And this kind of was like something that related to my culture and my ego that I had to cut through, with violence and a lot of corruption when it came to Bangladesh, and just a lot of ego and noise. So I really wanted us to sit down with this and find some peaceful resolution, as well as some understanding, because this is still occurring. This will still occur. And although we do speak in magnitudes with Israel and Hezbollah, I do want to speak in little pockets and little places that are experiencing this. Because I live in Harlem and I live close to Bronx, so we do experience violence and safety issues here. And so it's good to be one and all and recognize where the fear lies and where the safety is and where we can bring light to that.
For sure. So, to start, would you mind giving us a summary of the situation in Chilpango? Is that it?
Yes, and let me get the mayor's name.
Chilpancingo. Sorry.
Yeah, you said it really well. I won't repeat that. But the mayor, Arcos, was recently appointed there like a week ago. And he was known as a young and honest politician that wanted to change the area. And the area, Chilapan,
Single.
Yeah, Chilpancingo was known for its like devastating effects of gangs, especially when someone wanted to change something. Anyone in the political field that wanted to bring more peace and safety, it was violently um, stopped to the point where um, if they arrested gang leaders, they would halt traffic for days and even stole a army car so that they can destroy the gates of I think it was their court hall. So that in itself led me to be like, that's not okay. That's not okay for you to think that this is the way life should be, and then impose that on people who just want to live safely and who just want to enjoy where they're at, especially in Mexico, because this has been rampant for too long. And so he wanted to make some changes, and he also publicly said that I want more safety measures. I feel that I need more safety precautions. Whether that was addressed or not, we're not sure, but he was found later that week beheaded in his truck. And then a few days before that, the secretary of his was also, I believe, murdered. So it just shows that there is like this aggression and there's this like domination that you cannot change things. And this is the way the land is, and this we are ruling this land. So yeah, the two gangs definitely had something to do with that. And officials have said that this will not go unpunished. Whether it does or not, we're not sure, but we do know that it does continue to happen and it is going to continue to happen. Um, if we know that a politician's safety is that like uncared for, that this extent happens, then we can only imagine the degree that people need to go to in order to ensure their safety and ensure change. But it has to be very deep rooted given the heinous and violent crimes that are occurring there.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. I would like, I'm curious to hear what you guys feel is the core of this and also the peaceful revolution, including you, Nadia. And I would say that the reason why it's deep, it's because people are feeling, on some level, at least, that there's no, they're powerless to the degree to which gangs would go to do very low, and so they're feeling like unsafe and kind of this level of desperation that it won't get better because it was a promise of the elections in 2024 of the whole country and also the regional elections that gangs and gang leading would be reduced, but we're seeing decisions time and time again that makes people feel like corruption um, is only going to increase. And I have compassion for the situation, and I do feel that there's a lot to heal here. So, and maybe um, in a few words, would I'm curious to know like what would be the core healing for each of you. If you want to share, of course. And you have time to feel into it, and not just in the section and answer already.
Yeah, I really resonated when you mentioned powerlessness because essentially it is for all people that are involved in this. Whether you distrust the politicians and the authorities, like I get it, even here like we have a distrust with police, or whether you just feel that there's no right, there's no right that could like right this wrong. So, excuse me.
Right. That's okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it just feels like powerlessness and allowing fear to take over at its core. I know it fizzles out to be such other things, but in the root of it, it feels like allowing fear to continue on.
Right.
And I get it. There's many layers to that. So yeah.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Isaiah, do you have anything?
That feels right. I just agree with what Nadia was sharing, and um, yeah, there just needs to be peace in these places of like such violence, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree as well. Sage.
Yeah, I love that. I wanted to say too, Nadia, I loved how you described the news event, like the story itself or like what went on. I just felt like it was really, really eloquent and just laid it out really well, like what the issue was and what was going on. Um, but I feel like, yeah, other than that, other than the powerlessness, like the feeling like this is just how it always is and we can't do anything about it. I feel like it's also a lot about healing lack, like healing poverty, like feeling like you have enough and that you are enough, and being determined to, you know, have support, have resources and stuff like that, and create opportunities. Because a lot of the reason why um, there is like a lot of the reason why these gangs could take a hold so deeply in Mexico. It's the same reason why gangs take hold, I feel, in any country. It's like any area that's kind of like left behind or forgotten, or there's a lot of like generational trauma that has to do with lack and poverty. Criminal enterprises can take hold because either people don't feel like they have any other opportunities. So the criminal enterprise looks attractive to them. That's how they get their operatives. Or, like you said, people feel abandoned by the government. And in some cases, they actually are, because there have been a lot of cases in Mexico's more recent history where the cartels have gone mainstream and they started paying for and providing public services, even like hospitals, libraries, schools, like big ticket items cartels have provided, and that just goes to show like, man, like you might distrust your government, you might dislike working with them because they have corruption. A lot of officials do. Um, they might not always act in your best interest, you know, but it's up to you to like, you can't choose to like energetically pull away and disengage, because then they're going to disengage from you, or they're going to try to basically, like, you won't be able to have partnership where you need to with the government. And so I think it's really important to do that. And I mean, right now it's kind of like an emergency in Mexico. So kind of what they have to do is like um fully acknowledge this problem, which the previous president did not do. Um and they have to fully like combat the problem. And it's kind of an urgent thing. Like, you've got to worry about your safety before you worry about like other things, right? Like your economic prosperity, you've got to be safe. But I think as much as they can, it's important for the Mexican government to invest in all these different areas of the country so that they can have better economic opportunities as much as they can, and for the people to choose that for themselves, because otherwise it keeps feeding this problem. And that's like a long-term solution. And what they need to get away from is when people are so disaffected by government, they can be won over by strategies that don't serve their long-term interest. For example, the last president, Lopez Obrador, he was popular because he gave direct cash or whatever payments to families, to poor families, right? And that is very helpful for them. It's really helpful. But what happens when the cash stops flowing? You go right back to how you used to be. So the government instead needs to do the more, I guess it's kind of like more bitter medicine. It's because it's less sweet than just being handed like cash, right? But they have to like invest in the country at a deep level and don't be handing cash payments to people that may go away eventually, which they probably will. And then don't have these massive problems and be ignoring them. And let's say like build a massive train line between Mexico City and like Cancun. That was a project that they recently started to get
Yeah.
underway because they're like, this will be so good for tourism. And it's like, yeah, that's great. But you also kind of have basically a full scale war going on in your interior in the
Yeah.
north of your country. You know,
And this
you
will
know what I,
also affect the ecosystems as well.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm just like, I feel like it's about like priorities and you just gotta be like,
Yeah.
you're just like, oh, I really don't want to do that. Like,
You
but
know what
you
this
gotta do it.
is? You know what this is, and that's not just a problem in Mexico. I think that's a problem everywhere. It just shows differently, depending on the trauma and patterns that you have to heal in your culture. There's something about no matter if you choose the government or the gangs right now, there is a sort of like trying to be paternalistic in a way that you would be with an infant child instead of being paternalistic in a way that you would be in trying to grow your society into adult children that can take care of themselves. And so we have upsets like that everywhere, all over the world. We're all healing this. But the way it shows in Mexico is like you're trying to choose a gang that is building an hospital for you, and it's good, but because the foundation is not here for the actual peace resolution to be here for you, which is to grow yourself to that kind of prosperity, it's more or less going to fall. We don't see how, we don't know when exactly, but it is going to fall because it is built on sand. And so, because people are so used to being like that, and um, because people want their political leaders to also be providers to feed them, we have that problem worldwide. And so, people play into these patterns because maybe that's the only thing they know from their family, from their politicians, and even the politicians themselves. And they have to start shifting this in some way, shape, or form. And I think maybe that's why the United States is so powerful because, in a sense, there is this thing of maybe sometimes there is too much individualism, but there is individualism enough that people can kind of grow and push each other to grow businesses, succeed. I don't know, but it doesn't mean that it's perfect, but there's something to it for sure. And yeah, it's just what I was feeling. It's a deep wound. And we also have to take a look at it in ourselves, obviously. So it's a lot. So I can understand. But it's good that we got to talk about it today. And so we're going to end with something that we never talked about, but was all over the news for months, which is the Diddy trial. And there is a set date for the trial, seemingly, which is May 5, the next May 5. And we're talking about this today because, similar to gangs, there is something about how he could develop like a sex trafficking business all around him, and how he abused his ex-girlfriend Cassie, um, and abused so many others, probably up to 3,000 people, if not more, and how his case is building up. I don't have much to say because I think a lot of people know what is happening. I want to add to the dramatics of it because that is very brash. But I would like in the 7 minutes that we have for you to kind of tell me, as people who probably have this all over the news regularly because it's happening in your country. What do you feel about what's going on there? Do you have any personal opinions that you would like to share? And if so, why? Oh, and also, what can we say as unionists about this? Mm, anyone would like to talk about that?
Okay, I do want to mention it was said, just bringing out other perspectives. So Kanye West, Ye, said that the more powerful you become, the music industry brings out these evidence that they use to blackmail you. I'm not sure if this is true or not, or if this will come out in court. But if P. Diddy did create a sex trafficking ring and this does come out, then I feel it's coming out for a good reason to bring light into this issue. Because we've heard this far too many times where there have been elites taking advantage of a very corrupt system where their they can hide their bullshit and their crimes, and basically it just gets brushed under a carpet and no one will notice because they just throw money at it. So if we do get to pinpoint a certain person that is involved in this, then we can bring more people that are involved in this into light. Um, Whether it came out in a very political way for P. Diddy or not, I'm not sure, but that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what came out, as long as it's the divine truth, it needs to be healed and it needs to be properly addressed.
You're bringing up something interesting because we are seeing how unprotected child stars or children working around people in Hollywood have been for decades, up to a century right now. And we're seeing more and more productions and even people like former child stars speaking up about this and how they've been abused. And the youngest of Diddy's victims was 9 at the time, seemingly. So um, there is definitely something to be said about we need to have legislation to finally heal this wound and finally protect these children. And maybe, as you say, Diddy is the way to start doing that, hopefully, at least for them. Of course, there are a lot of people that also needs protection from, sorry, the powerful influence of others, especially women, if and how sometimes they're forced into signing contracts with certain clauses that they don't want, especially exchange for sex. Um, and yeah, yeah, that's it. That's what I wanted to say. But you're right that you want to see something divine out of that, and I think that's it. At least that, hopefully. Any last words before um we close up for today?
I do want to mention that how, like, this is a deep healing for all of us, especially us, but like we're talking about it. But in general, I do want to mention that how deeply we go into social media as one, And we just completely take it as a culture, and we become blindsided by it to the point where we're just like manufacturing entertainment and completely disregarding um, someone's proper growth, someone's respect, someone's autonomy. And that goes for all of us to be very like, such as what we do here, even with the news. We're very discreet, and like we have to like always refine the way that we are presenting the news. So yeah.
Yeah, I love this. You're on fire today, Nadia. Feels anything else?
Yeah, I guess we don't have the full details yet, right? Like there's still yet to be a lot of court proceedings about this, right? Um, yeah, but I guess from what we know, um, preliminarily, I feel like it really brings up. So this is really interesting because within the last few months, I met somebody who was like in the music scene locally and was like, oh, I've got to go hang out with this DJ and stuff like that. And I really don't want to. I'd rather go to bed and stuff like that. I don't want to go to this party, but I've got to go because I need it to advance my career, to promote my career, as a musician. Like it's like, and I feel like that's being shown here in like a really big and like much more shocking way is like basically be you don't have to like make a bad deal or like associate with someone who you don't want to associate with just to like advance your career or your fame and stuff like that. And like especially it's a sign that parents of like kids who are stars, like who are famous, just they're learning that you've got to be really like really 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 discerning and careful and stuff. And it's like nothing um yeah, like no potential benefit to someone's career is worth like the kind of stuff that can happen with these abuses
Mhm.
by powerful people, and like it's just really important to be like yes, like you might want to like have some help becoming more popular, getting discovered or whatever it might be, but it's just like yeah, but it's not worth it to jeopardize your safety, you know, to do that. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Hi, Isaiah.
Isaac.
To finish this up, I would say, and of course, it's not always that easy if you don't understand like what you are getting into by coming to the house of someone, but hopefully like we're getting more and more informed about this. But I just wanted to share the example of Brendan Fraser. And like I spoke up about the abuses in Hollywood and got canceled because of that for years. And many would say that, see, and then Fraser, if I was doing what he was doing, I wouldn't have my success. But um, then he came back last year, and that's just a testament that people recognize the truth. People recognize the truth. The one that gives you the currency that you want, which is attention, your audience, they recognize the truth in the end, hopefully. So there's nothing that you must compromise to have success, I would say. I'm losing my voice, but that's okay. Nadia, very last thing.
I was going to say along the lines of what you were already speaking of. And I also wanted to mention like the more light we bring into this situation, the easier it'll become to discern. And it reminds me of an image of Shirley Temple. I'm not sure if you guys know of Shirley Temple, but she did a scene where she was singing amongst a lot of men, like a lot of adult men. Some of them were looking at her a certain type of way. Some of them were greeting her caringly and nicely. But when you bring light into yourself and bring discernment, you can definitely understand what makes you comfortable and what makes you uncomfortable. So, doing these scenes, when we bring in more light, even as an audience, we can feel that discernment and be like, wait a minute, like Shirley Temple's kind of like feeling like this. I wonder why that is. I wonder if she's okay. I wonder if she's like comfortable doing this scene. And the more and more we question that, the more discernment and light we can bring into each aspect of someone's it's
Yeah.
not even entertainment, life purpose. Like this is their life purpose and it's for all of us to share it. So why not share it in light and in peace?
Yeah, for sure. So looking forward to continue these discussions. Thank you to everyone who tuned in and watched us live on our Facebook group or on YouTube on our Church Reunion YouTube channel. If you enjoy this, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment so we can do more of those. I wish you a very good day and see you next week.